Hello everybody, welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join us for a dearly departed transfer update. The transfer market is really starting to move now. Contract expiry date and July the 1st is all past now. Pre-season training has started. Most managers are in place now, aren't they? It's been a very, very busy week. We caught up with the Championship stuff, but I have plenty of requests to talk about some of these dearly departed deals. If you're new to this, the dearly departed are the teams that I cover in the Championship that get themselves into the Premier League. And whilst they are in the Premier League, they will be dearly departed, whether that's 1 year, 2 years or 100 years, they will be dearly departed. So we're talking Leeds, Villa, Norwich, Watford and Brentford are our 5 dearly departed teams. And if you've never seen one of my transfer update videos, here's the deal. We talk about done deals, not rumours, done deals that have been announced by the club on their official website. I need to see the player holding a shirt and giving a boring interview saying how he's raring to get going and can't wait to start. We can talk a bit about buying club, selling club, player, etc. and your expectations, likely as supporters of those teams and how you see the transfers panning out. Well, by way of housekeeping, we use Transfermarkt as our source. I'm not that interested in fees. People get really bogged down in fees. Most of them are undisclosed, and frankly, none of us know how they're structured and what period and what the player's valued at on the balance sheet and all of that. Let's not get bogged down in fees unless you really work for the club and you know, in which case, go and do some work signing people and stop watching a YouTube channel if you do work for a football club. Right, let's start with our dearly departed champions from last year, Leeds, and the no-brainer of all no-brainer transfers. Leeds compete, Jack Harrison move. Look, 24 years old, 128 appearances for Leeds already, and he's now signing. I mean, dearie me. So he was on loan. How many years has he been on loan? Ahead of the 2018-19 season, Harrison made his first move to Leeds. So 2018-19, 19-20, 2020-21 as well. He's done 3 seasons on loan at Leeds. Took me a while to get Jack Harrison. He'd play wide in these Bielsa teams. Probably it took Jack Harrison a while to get Bielsa, but really good player. And we always get in this mode now where I don't know whether a Leeds player is a good player or a good Leeds player, if you know what I mean, because it's so niche what they're asked to do, and you know they kind of get into that system, and you wonder what would they be like at another club. But Harrison's been excellent for Leeds. First season, yeah, questions. I think as well that season with the emergence of Jack Clark, and you sort of had Pablo Hernandez on another wing. He didn't really stand out, but then the following season, look, he's not a chalk on your boots, dribble it past 3 players, ping it in the box, John Barnes type winger, but then who is nowadays, frankly. But they're almost like central midfielders that play out wide, aren't they? Can get involved, do all the little bits, but at Leeds, you know, it's all about the overload, down the sides, get in the box, make cutbacks and get assists, or if you're coming from the other side, be on the end of it and score those goals. And Harrison, I think it said in a report, 8 goals in the... Yeah, look, 36 Premier League appearances last season and 8 goals. So it's a no-brainer. Now, but yeah, far be it for me to contradict what I said about talking about fees, but I believe the first year Leeds did the deal, there was a price they could have bought, and they just seem to have delayed it every season now. But I think it was fairly enshrined and set in stone that they were able to take him, and it just happened that they made the loan a year longer each time. And good bit of business. Harrison, obviously Manchester City, didn't get through there into their first team, but let's be honest, he's, like we said, just finished 9th in the Premier League and played 36 times and scored 8 goals and has played 128 times for Leeds. So I think it's been a good deal all around. And Bielsa loves Harrison, and Bielsa loves players who are consistent and follow his instructions. So Yep, an absolute no-brainer to start with Jack Harrison permanently now after 128 appearances into Leeds. This is Amari Miller, and there's plenty of these actually. So it's good work from all of our dearly departed clubs actually. They all seem to have, apart from Brentford, but we know Brentford have done that over and over again and will do, brought in a youngster or two, and we know the deal, don't we? They go into the squad and they develop, they probably go out on loan at some point, and, you know, they basically get put into the machine and see what happens. Some of them stand out and find their way onto the bench and work towards the first team. But for some, it's a process, isn't it? So it's Amari Miller. They paid a fee. It says undisclosed fee and a 4-year deal. Caught the eye in Birmingham under 18s. Couple of appearances for the first team. If you remember at the end of last season, Birmingham were absolutely brilliant after Bowyer arrived. But once they'd got safety, he basically just played a load of youngsters for the last couple of games, didn't he? And Miller was one of them. And Leeds have swooped in and taken him. That's the deal now. When you're a Premier League team, you can do that. You are the big boy, aren't you? And in this transaction, Leeds can offer Miller a place at a Premier League club, presumably a nice salary and development, and that's what it will be. He's only how old is he? 18 years old. Long deal, so he'll go into the under 23s. And we saw a similar thing with Joe Gelhardt at Leeds, went from Wigan last season. So we won't likely see Amari Miller anywhere near the first team. But you want to be in the Premier League, behave like a big club. And big clubs, in terms of those ones that are, well, let me not use the word big, because Leeds are clearly a big club, aren't they? But say the top 6 clubs, they have this whole cycle, don't they, of stockpiling young players and training them up and either selling them on, loaning them out, and the odd 1 or 2 make it through to the first team. And Leeds are starting to grow into that cycle. Although Bielsa doesn't like a massive bloated squad, so they will, in the main, stay with the 23s, you'd think. But yeah, be interesting to know how much they laid down to get Amari Miller, and we'll keep an eye on him and see if he can make the bench or get anywhere near that first team at any point in the next, let's be fair, 18 months, 2 years or so. Good luck to him, of course. Let's move on to Aston Villa. So we did a separate video on this one. Of course, the big signing and transfer market have got it at 34.56 million as a transfer fee, club record transfer fee. Emi Buendia across from Norwich to Aston Villa. We did a whole video on that. If you followed the channel, Buendia was a really important player that we talked about a lot last season. He was the best player in the Championship, and he's now going to go off and have a crack at it at Villa. And I suppose, really, and Villa fans will be sick to death of this, but it is what it is. Villa have Grealish, who it feels like over the duration of the Euros has gone from a star at Villa and a highly rated Premier League player. Seems like he's just now transitioned into a national star, being with England as well. And I don't know, it's just very strange, because it feels like I've sat here on this channel listening to people talk absolute rubbish about Grealish being overrated and all of this stuff, and you'd say, really? And now a lot of people seem to have actually caught up. And look, will someone offer a big pot of gold to Aston Villa and Grealish? And I'm sure he'd go with many blessing as a legend. But on the back end of this window, you don't know. But it could be pretty tasty. Buendia right, Grealish left, Watkins. Let's see what happens with that one. One more in, though, at Villa from a couple of weeks back. Yeah, 17th of June. Aston Villa is pleased to announce the signing of Ashley Young. So 35 years old, won Serie A. Look at that with Inter last season. 369 Premier League appearances, multiple trophies, 39 caps. Been at Villa before, obviously. So look, it's clearly one of these ones where, you know, a kind of coming back home type signing. Well, I suppose Watford would be home for Ashley Young, but there you go. Just brings loads of experience, and you're looking at standards and people bringing other players up to that standard if you've been at Manchester United and Inter and England and all of that stuff. So I guess there may be a coaching path as well. I don't know how well known Dean Smith and the staff are to Ashley Young, but seems like a smart deal. How many minutes you'll see him play, I don't know. But we saw players like Gareth Barry at West Brom. He'd always be around. You'd always see him. He'd pop on at the end of games, and well, I'm thinking of Chris Brunt as well. Even James Milner at Liverpool, obviously a real high standard player, but that type of player who's not going to start 30 games, but will be an important one. So they'll hope they can get that type of intangible sort of addition to the dynamic there from Ashley Young, and assuming they got a nice deal on salary, could be a nice couple of years. I don't know if it says what sort of contract he signed. I suppose it'll be rolling, won't it? But yeah, got no issues with that. I don't know how much it'll turn the needle on the pitch. Something like Buendia obviously is far more the focus in that regard. But couple in at Villa, we're going to get more, and the Grealish thing is not gonna go away until that window closes for sure, is it? Right, let's go over to Norwich. Lots of business going on at Norwich. And this is the first one, Milo Rashica. Now, we need to just talk in broader terms about Norwich, because obviously they went up last season and just didn't really, I think most Norwich fans would admit, didn't really improve the team with any of the signings. And Stuart Webber turned around and said he sent his manager to war without a gun or what have you. Obviously, there were financial reasons, and it was save your pennies and build back stronger, which they did, and won the championship pretty much at a canter, managing to keep that right-hand side of Aarons and Buendia and Pookie. But let's be honest, it was all still a bit built on, the 18-19 team, with those three players really the most vital players in terms of output in the team. Yes, other players were good, but you know what I'm saying, don't you? So they've actually pushed the boat out a little bit. Obviously, in context, they have brought in 35 million quid and sold their best player. So there is that. But, well, you tell me, as Kieran Dyer said very well when I asked him about leaving Ipswich, is he a better player than the 4 players that were signed with the money they got for him? Yes. But he said it, if I played those players in a 5-a-side, they would beat me. As in, 2 heads, 4 heads are better than 1. So, will it improve the team for the greater good? We will find out. But this is the first one. And I think it's really important that Norwich fans, and far be it for me to tell anyone what to do, don't see him as the new Buendia. That's totally unfair, isn't it? So this is Kosovo winger Milo Rashica. Undisclosed fee. It does not say club record fee. Transfer market say 9.9 million. I'm guessing Tim Closer or who else would it be? Naismith on the back end was more experienced than that. 27 goals in German football. And yeah, look, I don't know much about the guy. I know Stuart Webber and the Norwich guys, they're very studied in that area. But as I said, it would be very unfair on the poor guy who's just arrived in English football. Right, this guy's going to play in the same spot as Buendia, therefore he must do exactly the same thing and have this massive influence and output on the team. And I always call that Patrick Vieira syndrome, where Arsenal fans, for about 10 years after Vieira had gone, seemed to expect that the only way they could win a football match was to have a very significant central midfielder who could do absolutely everything and get lots of output from that area of the pitch. There are 11 players in a team, and output can be shared, and sometimes one player, Norwich had it themselves with Mattheson, didn't they, where they got a hell of a lot of output from one player, okay, a lot of it then did shift to Buendia after Mattheson left, but it was a bit more shared around, wasn't it? So is he Emi Buendia Mark II? No, and that's ridiculous and an unfair thing to put on him. Will he play in the same position? Sounds like it, but there are many ways to skin a cat. So good luck to this fella, Rasika. And frankly, if I'm Daniel Farker, I'm kind of, yeah, they're getting me some high-end players from decent places, which he didn't really get last time, and obviously Norwich finished bottom. So that looks like a fun one, Rasika. And as I say, Transfer Mark says 9.9 million as a fee. Here we go. Billy Gilmore has come in on loan. And again, sorry, I've just got to talk about hype straight away. So I feel so sorry for this guy, Billy Gilmore, bless him. So he was off minding his own business at Chelsea. And he's kind of been dragged into England derangement syndrome, hasn't he? Because you know what it's like following England. And England put in a pretty naff performance against Scotland. And Gilmore, let's be honest, was perfectly fine. Perfectly decent. Sat behind McGinn and Armstrong, who pressed. Scotland played a sort of mid-low block. And Gilmore was responsible. Then he got in behind. He was nice and neat and tidy. Swept the ball up. Kept the ball. Moved it out to the wing-backs. Got it off to the left. Perfectly fine performance. But of course, with it being England and Scotland in the Euros, this was then turned into Billy Gilmore being a cross between Patrick Vieira, Steven Gerrard, Roy Keane, Iniesta, Xavi, and worth £1 billion. So I feel slightly badly for him because the hype is now ridiculous around this guy. I'm sure he's a very, very decent player, but hopefully he can remove himself from the ridiculousness of, you know, coming into contact with England. And yeah, and didn't he come into contact after the COVID thing with Chilwell and Mount as well? But it would be really useful for him and his career for that to be pushed to one side. I'm not, you know, he may have been the best player on the pitch there, but let's be honest, in a 0-0, I think I think everybody was just looking for a narrative, weren't they? And unfortunately, Gilmore was that guy. But in he goes to Norwich, 20 years old. He's not played many times for Chelsea. He's obviously pretty highly rated there. But look, Chelsea is an interesting beast, isn't it? And sometimes it's hard to tell how good a young Chelsea player is. For example, we had Mark Guay at the top of the Championship with Swansea last season looking good. We had Tammy Abraham loaned down from Chelsea and, you know, cheat code in the Championship. Then went to Swansea and the loan to the Premier League didn't really work. And then back down to Villa and, again, cheat code in the Championship. And then we get people like Mason Mount and Reece James, who went a couple of years earlier than Gilmore. James was very young, wasn't he? Like 18. And anyone who saw Reece James in the Championship will know that he would step on the pitch aged 18 against players that have played 200 Championship games and was better than all of them. So Gilmore's not taken that path. He was there at the time with Lampard where they were under the transfer embargo. And I think those two things were good for Chelsea young players. A few of them got in. And of course, Mount and James are pretty much bona fide Chelsea first team players. So I think there was a very long gap between John Terry and anyone coming through at Chelsea. So it's a strange place. And if you're a Norwich fan, you're almost hoping that it is too late for Gilmore at Chelsea. Well, you're hoping for one or two things. Either Gilmore is actually somewhere near as good as the ridiculous hype that came after the Scotland game, in which case he'll be a very good signing and Norwich will have him for 1 year and then he will get in the Chelsea team. What feels a little bit more likely is that he's not ever getting anywhere near the Chelsea team and Norwich might, in the same way we've seen Leeds take Jack Harrison, be able to, you know, pull him in long term. They'll hope for one of those two things. Obviously, the third thing is that it's a bust. And you never know. You really, really never know when someone makes the move. But certainly he stepped up to a perfectly decent 8 out of 10 performance against England without being the new Roy Keane or whoever, Andrea Pirlo. Pick your Tony Cruz, pick your central midfielder. Maybe the England derangement syndrome purported him to be. So this could be a good one. Could be a really good one for Norwich. It's interesting. I don't know whether this means that they can't get Skip, because I'm sure Norwich would have wanted Skip, being that they had him last season. And he's, I don't know too much about Gilmour. Skip just looks very durable, doesn't he? And, you know, kind of could look after himself at Premier League level with the physicality, whereas Gilmour looks a little bit more slight. Not that stops many players these days, but so it'd be interesting to see whether there's any intentions on Skip. We still hear this long-held link with Max Aarons and Spurs as well, so maybe they can do something that. And hey, if they could have Skip and Gilmour, that could be very good. And two players who've obviously come through at very big, you know, sort of top 6, top half Premier League clubs. So excited for Gilmour. Be interesting to see. Is he absolutely amazing and he's going to end up as playing lots of games for Chelsea? Who knows? Is he kind of decent, but Norwich might be able to pick him up long term and do a couple of lerms like Leeds with Harrison? Will it be a bust? Who knows? Who knows? Look, you can borrow players from... well, look, Loftus-Cheek played for England, Chelsea on loan to Fulham last season. So borrowing a player from a big team doesn't really guarantee a lot. And also expecting a player down... I'm going to say down at the bottom. We assume that promoted teams will, in some part, be battling first and foremost to get away. Expecting that player to carry the team on his own away from danger is fanciful as well. But it's not to say that a good loan signing... Actually, can someone put in the comments what have been good Premier League to Premier League loan signings? Because it feels like when... I don't know, like we had Abraham go to Swansea Premier League, it didn't work, or Harry Wilson to Bournemouth doesn't work. Someone let me know. It just feels like a niche that I don't know whether... obviously, the Harrison one leads to Man City, but they did then have him in the Championship beforehand. Anyway, let me know. Good luck to Gilmour, and let's hope he can put this ludicrous hype behind him and be himself, and we don't have to hear silly things about Scottish Iniestas and nonsense like that. Good luck to the guy. Maybe I shouldn't take those comparisons literally, but there you go. A couple of no-brainers here. Gibson and Janulis into Norwich. And these are smart deals that were done last season, weren't they? Essentially, loans with... I don't know whether they were obligations or first refusals. Probably says in the article there, doesn't it? But either way, smart business, which we've seen Wolves do, Leeds do, Fulham do. A lot of teams that get promoted now, because of FFP, relation to FFP and parachutes, you may as well borrow the really good player and do this type of deal and pay for them when you guaranteed the £100 TV money from the Premier League the next season. So very, very sensible stuff. If you can attract them and if you can pay the salary, why would you gamble on a massive fee when FFP is a 13 million limit? And these two, according to Transfermarkt, cost £14 million. So that would have been your maximum losses if you hadn't have brought in any money elsewhere straight away in the Championship. So kind of has to be done and sort of shows up FFP as being a little bit ridiculous, but it's a sensible workaround and has worked. And Gibson I'm pretty high on. He was Premier League proven. Janulis, well, had an injury, didn't he? Was there for the second half of the season, so I'd need to see more proof. And obviously, Gibson didn't do much at Burnley at Premier League level, but he's been around Premier League football, whereas Janulis, it's a bit new. But sensible stuff. There's still a couple more for Norwich. Sorry, I'm getting rambling on about this now. Angus Gunn. This is a good one, isn't it? Obviously, he's the son of Brian Gunn, who was a great goalkeeper for Norwich. And Transfermarkt's reporting 5.27 million for this one. He was on loan at Norwich in 18-19, the Mattheson season season before, 17-18. That was the Buendia and Pookie season, wasn't it? Yeah, 17-18. I think I've got the number right there. On loan there for Norwich and fit in very well. He was at Man City, wasn't he? And then went off to Southampton. He's then loaned back down to Stoke last season. 25, good age. You know, you can do £5 million quid on a goalkeeper when you're in the Premier League. So they've brought him in. Krul is moving on in years, but definitely number one there at Norwich. But some serious competition there, and perhaps as and when Krul is done, Gunn gets the shirt. So decent stuff from Norwich. Sort of 10 million, 14. I can't add up this fast. 10 had 40, 20. So pretty much 30 million quid spent. Obviously with the caveat that they brought that money in with the sale of Buendia. But as I keep saying, 1, 2, 3, 4 players, even if the one player is Buendia, 4 players should be able to output more than one. I know it's not that straightforward because it's what that one player does to everybody else around them. But yeah, there you go. So Gunn seems to make sense. And do the deal while you're in the Premier League, for goodness sake, with a possible wage cut if the worst happens. Another youngster, very similar this one to Miller in at Leeds. So this is Flynn Clark from Peterborough. Don't know a lot about him, but you'd guess he goes into the 23s and possibly will go out on loan somewhere at some point. Clearly evidence he can do it at League One level if he's standing out at Peterborough and making 11 appearances there before he's even left his teenage years. So yeah, good luck to him there. And we can move on to Watford. Just generally, pretty exciting stuff from Norwich, I think. They probably need another 3 or 4, especially if they do end up selling Aarons as well. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on any of those. Right, Watford. And this is Imran Losel. Loser? I don't want it to sound like loser. Loser? No. Do too much on pronunciation here, don't we? We think, according to Transfermarkt, 9 million quid on this one. 22-year-old midfielder. 5-year deal from Nantes in Ligue 1. Born to a Moroccan father and French mother. Represented both countries. Left-footed midfielder, capable of playing out wide, but predominantly occupies a central midfield position. Don't know too much about the player. Watford in terms of style, we did see a 4-4-2, but the big change was when they went to the 4-3-3, and you'd think 3 tight midfielders. Sounds a bit like Will Hughes when they described the player as in a left footer central sort of role, but hey, maybe I'm jumping to conclusions there. So you would expect a 9 million quid signing to be going in there and starting games in the Premier League. So yeah, we'll see how that one pans out. And Watford already starting to push the recruitment there. And here's another one. Emmanuel Dennis, 3.6 million, says Transfermarkt. 23 years old, spent last season on loan in Germany's Bundesliga with Coyle, having first joined the Belgian top flight in 2017. Nigerian, 27 goals, played in the Champions League and Europa League. And let's be honest, finding a number 9 or strikers, etc. for Watford, it was tough getting it right. Deeney and Gray didn't quite get things together there. There was João Pedro in there as well, Paritza. Plenty of strikers had a go, and in the end, it was getting Ismail Assar a bit more narrow and Ken Sema on the other side and João Pedro in having a 3. So whether Xisco thinks he can do that in the Premier League, whether that might be too open, he needs a bit more cover, I don't know. But they did need options in that area, and perhaps you might see someone looking at Andre Gray, maybe a bit lower down. We will see. Didn't really work out for him last season. Here's another. Well, can't really go in the Ashley Young bracket of arrivals because he's only 30 here. Danny Rose, who recently left Tottenham after 14 years in North London. And I'm sure lots of people saw Danny Rose on the Amazon documentary, falling out with Jose Mourinho. All good fun over there, wasn't it? But that looks quite a good pickup. If Rose can get his head right and get anywhere near where he was, decent standard Premier League fullback, can play either side, can play wing back, of course, as well. I suspect some people will ask questions about the character of the player, although some people will like a character like that who took on Mourinho head-on. Obviously didn't win. You're not going to win against the manager of a football club unless you are literally the best player at the club, and then you hold a little bit more cards than you're a fullback who's not fancied. So, yeah, I expect him to be in the side here. Fullbacks for Watford, Firmino down the right was good, wasn't he? The season ended, I can't remember, last season seems a blur now, in the left-back role. Pass Firmino, Sierralta, Ekong and Messina. Yeah, so he'll go in a battle with those two players, Messina and Firmino, won't he? But you'd think he's going to get some football if he's anywhere near fit, Danny Rose. And Ashley Fletcher, this seems a bit of a gamble-y pickup. 25 years old, went to Middlesbrough for a lot of money. I think it's like 7 million quid or something, maybe even more than that. And it worked for a very, very short while under Woodgate, but Warnock absolutely threw them under the bus, he and Assombalonga. And I suspected someone would get the deal done in the Championship, but Watford have gone in there and taken the player. There's obviously potential there if they can polish him up. But you would imagine if the other strikers at Watford, you know, start to contribute, perhaps we'll see Fletcher loaned down to the Championship. It's up to him, isn't it? He's got a jersey. How well can he train? And it seems a little bit of a, you know, nothing to lose situation for either parties, providing the salary is decent. 28 goals and 108 appearances over 4 seasons. So not the most prolific, but I'm sure some of you remember an amazing goal he scored at West Brom. There's something there, isn't there? Can they get it out of him? We'll see. And another in terms of the lower league wonder kids here, Kwadwo Ba. 18 years old from Rochdale. This one went through back in May as the season actually closed down, but I thought I'd include it. Undisclosed and very similar, isn't it? We've had Miller going at Leeds. We've had Clark going at Norwich. And this is Bart going in at Watford. So, yeah, that is our last one. We've got none to talk about at Brentford. There's a few players gone into the B team, the fabled Brentford B team, but I'm sure we'll get some fun ones going at Brentford before the season starts. But yeah, some exciting ones. We think big money for Harrison and Buendia to Villa, Rasika, and, well, 20, 30 million quid already spent by Norwich. And the Gilmore loan catches the eye as well. Looks fun. And Loser, I can't call this guy Loser, 9 million quid into Watford as well. So they're off and running. I've had my say. Now you have yours. Let me know what you think about these signings and the business done so far for the dearly departed clubs. These transfer updates, we'll try and keep them nice and frequent. Obviously, in the Championship, there will be more because I'm covering 24 clubs there as opposed to 5 here. So don't worry. We will get involved and we will try and keep up with this as best is possible. There we go. That's a dearly departed transfer update. Get comments in. Be interested to know what you think and how those players will improve the squads they've arrived at. And also what else do you expect at Leeds, Villa, Norwich, Watford, Brentford between now and the end of the window? I guess at the start of September it will be. Right, that is our dearly departed. Oh dear, have I missed one out? I'm so sorry. Quick apology to Matty Pollock, who arrived at Watford from Grimsby, 19 years old. My bad, transfer mark's got that going through. £270,000. Sorry to Matty Pollock. I think he's going to be a project at Watford. There we go. I wanted to bring that up and say that concludes our dearly departed transfer update. There we go. Justice for Pollock. Over and out. Get your comments in. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button and to be notified every time we upload. Ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.